Republican Representative Dan Burton of Indiana for more reaction to this stunning news that Solyndra executives are going to be pleading the fifth. Can you believe it, Congressman?
No, it doesn't surprise me in the least. And the thing that really kind of gets me when I listen to this lady is the way they were misled. You know, the Department of Energy warned the White House and the people that were pushing this thing that this company could not succeed. They knew 2 years before this company went bankrupt that they were going to be in trouble. And yet the president pushed and pushed and pushed, and so did the rest of the White House, because they thought this would be a real political plus for them. And it's just tragic. And when I think back to what happened with Obamacare, and I know I'm going back a little bit, but the Cornhusker kickback to get votes, the Louisiana Purchase to get votes, the Gatorade to get votes, all these backroom deals that were cut, and now you've got a guy who's a contributor going to the White House 16 times, bundling up maybe $100,000 or more in contributions, and this guy convinces the White House that this is a good deal when the White House knows for a fact it wasn't. This ought to be, pardon me, this ought to be investigated all the way to the White House. I think it smacks of real corruption.
Well, my question, I mean, you know, it's one thing for the CEO and the CFO to plead the fifth, but frankly, rather than them on the witness chair, I would rather see people on the witness chair from the White House to find out what they knew, when they knew it about Solyndra.
Well, you know, if you look at this, it says that in August of 2009, 3 weeks before the loan guarantee closed, DOE staff said, "We still have major outstanding issues about the working capital of this company, whether they can make it." And yet the White House pushed and pushed and pushed, even though they knew this company was in trouble and they couldn't compete with the Chinese. And yet they put $550 million of Americans' taxpayers' money into this thing, knowing that it would probably go down. And this is another favor to one of the contributors. At least it looks like a favor to a contributor that went to the White House 16 times to visit with the president.
I'm wondering if you think that the White House is a party to fraud here.
Well, I think this smacks of Chicago politics. This president is willing to do anything he can to further his political agenda, and I believe to raise funds for his campaign. I mean, when a guy comes 16 times to the White House to talk to you about a project that you know is going to go belly up, and he brings a bunch of money in, pats you on the back, and you say, "We'll do what we can to help you," and then the taxpayers pay $550 million for a defunct company, and all these people are laid off that had hope. I think it's tragic. Well, this ought to be David. This ought to be investigated, not just the company, but all the way to the White House.
And I'm just wondering how many of those jobs that the administration claims the stimulus created or saved, how many of those are Solyndra jobs? Whether they actually remove them from their list, or whether there are other companies that are about to go bust that may also be actually having a net job loss rather than creation.
Yeah, David, who knows? And then you know the thing that dealt with the internet. There's all kinds of scandals over there that ought to be investigated. When they try to change a general's testimony, I mean, this is really a tragic White House.
And it just makes you think that the whole thing was a gravy train. In fact, George Kaiser, this bundler that you were talking about, a contributor to the president and a bundler for his campaign, was speaking about the stimulus program a couple of years ago. Here's what he had to say. I'd like your reaction.
Okay.
We've helped a number of entities try to make effective grant requests for this funding. We've secured more than $40 million extra for Tulsa so far, and we've made multiple trips to Washington to tell the story in education, in healthcare, and energy to the respective cabinet secretaries in each of those areas, and almost all the key players in the West Wing of the White House.
So what do you think about that? I mean, it was clearly more of a gravy train, at least from the part of the recipients of those funds.
Well, it just shows that if you're a quote-unquote businessman and you can raise a lot of money for this administration, for the president, you can get a lot of benefits and favors that other people can't. And that was to the tune of $550 million of our taxpayers' money at a time when this country's in bad fiscal shape.
Our money and the jobs of those good people from Solyndra. Congressman, we've got to leave it at that. Dan Burton, great to see you. Thanks for